Shop smart, shop S-Mart.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of New Book Who Dis.
I am your host, DeathMetalHero, and with me is animation legend JohnCelestri. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine.
I am your host, DeathMetalHero. Oh, I can hear the YouTube in the background. You might need to mute that.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. We're great. Right. At least it makes more for a little more chaos than normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The reverb eventually will get to both of us.
Yeah.
But how you doing, sir? Good to finally meet you.
Well, it's good to meet you too. I'm surprised we could get together so quickly, but that's cool.
Well, I had a few open spots. Just so happened to slot into this evening tonight. I have another show tonight with Dojo Kun Comics at 9. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I try to have 2 available slots on Monday nights. So it just worked out, man.
Okay,
and you've got a live campaign that we're going to talk about a little later here this evening. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm glad that we were able to work it out. And yeah, I saw you on Red Valkyrie for your last one. What was it, Bloodwing Angel that you had on Red Valkyrie? Yeah, yeah. Looked pretty interesting. And Shay and Sire are usually they got pretty good taste. They have good guests on. So but yeah, I've seen you hanging out with Luke Stone and my buddy Pedro Ang. It's those are 2 of my homies. So yeah, I'm glad that we finally get a chance to talk, man. Let's say hi to the chat. We've got Pale Rider that says titties.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what you see first. That's yep. That's you, Pale Rider. Good to see you, buddy. Yep. Unhinged says 3. This is my buddy Jason and co-host on Topicless tomorrow night at 9:15 p.m. Morb357 says hail all. Hail Morb. Good to see you. This is the writer on the comic book that I'm currently penciling and inking. And Skull Flying Feline. Good to see you, beautiful. And this is my co-host and partner in crime for the Happy Hour Hangout, which is tomorrow at 5 p.m. on her channel. She's also my favorite troublemaker, and like I said, my partner in crime. But yes, I do artwork. I doodle, I draw, and now getting to do it professionally, which is fun. So yeah. So how long have you been doing art? I mean, you obviously you've been in animation.
Right.
I don't know if for those that aren't familiar, go ahead and tell people what your history is.
Well, I go back to the days of the mid 1970s. I started. Well, I was always doing artwork and whatnot, but when I finally got the animation bug, back in the very early 70s, and I wound up cutting my teeth with old Popeye and Mighty Mouse animators in New York City.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was my first gig, working at New York Institute of Technology on Tubby the Tuba, and that.
Wow.
Yeah, well, and the thing about it is that that was the New York Tech was doing an experimental film in terms of doing a feature film, but on the other side of the campus was they were experimenting with trying to figure out how to do computer animation. And they were using that, with Catmull was doing his bit, and they developed all kinds. They were using Tubby the Tuba and all the problems with how to do a feature film, and having to figure out what is it that a computer would have to do to replace humans. And so they finally figured that out. Yes, I know. I'm on that. I went through that loop. They used old Popeye guys we would do animation. That's how I learned. I learned it the old school way.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I learned all my principles from that. Then I went to Raggedy Ann and Andy in New York City, because I'm from New York City. I'm Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Born in.
Nice.
So yeah, and so I learned. We went to for Richard Williams on the Raggedy Ann and Andy in Manhattan, and worked on that.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So within about 2 years, I worked with Popeye, Terry Toon, Fleischer,
Terry Toons.
Disney animators.
Fleischer.
That's where I got all of my training. So by the time I hit, I was about 27. I was ready to make. I wound up. I got hired on by Friz Freeling to work on his. That was. He said, okay. He went on to New York. He was in New York City during the summer of '76, and he was looking for new talent. So I got he gave me a letter, said, if you ever come to Los Angeles, look me up to animate on his show. So I went. I wound up there too. But I was at Nelvana, and that's where I got to work on the Star Wars Holiday Special, and I animated. I'm the first I animated Boba Fett in the Star Wars Holiday. In terms of for rock and roll, worked on Rock and Rule. Worked on. If you know rock and rock and roll, I worked on. I was doing the police chief, the quad hole, did the club owner Mylar, and Cindy Schlepper, the giant gal on roller skates.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So those are
awesome.
So, I mean, it was a great soundtrack. With Iggy Pop, Lou Reed, Deborah Harry, Earth, Wind and Fire.
That's a classic soundtrack.
Cheap Trick. You had all kinds of stuff there. So
I love me some Cheap Trick.
Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah.
Wow. So I mean that's amazing. Just that's some incredible stuff to have. On your resume.
Yeah. That's like the first 5 years of it, because I also worked on He-Man and She-Ra, worked on Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you were all working on Bluth stuff.
I worked on Bluth the video games. Worked on at Filmation.
Yeah.
So did a bunch of worked on some computer commercials. There's some Batman commercials from the late 80s, where that was for Zellers. You look them up, and it's like just before we did that, just before the live action Batman.
Oh, the Tim Burton '89 Batman flick.
We did it before that, so we've got the Batman with the Joker, with the Riddler, with Catwoman, and the Penguin.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to.
Just Google it, and you'll find it. They're up there.
Yeah. I'll have to Google it and see if I can find them. That sounds incredible. I mean, I remember the Batman '89 flick. It kind of changed the way people saw Batman. Back then.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Fleischer. I love Fleischer. His Superman is my favorite version of Superman.
Yeah, it is.
Bar none.
It is the best. In fact, it's got everything about the. I don't know. There are going to be some people that say, "Oh no, the old school." I would say that the Superman of when it was originally started in 1938 through the early 40s. To me, that is Superman before he became God.
Became overpowered and unbeatable. Yeah.
He was. It made sense. I mean, this levitation business, leaping tall buildings, I can understand. That's John Carter on Mars.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay. So, but anyway, go ahead. Ask me questions.
Feline says, "My name is Mock."
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Pedro, some person says Pedro's going to feel bad for missing this. Yeah, I hope Pedro's doing okay. I ain't seen him for a little bit. What's up, some person? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. But yeah, Fleischer's Superman is near and dear to my heart. It's my favorite version of Superman. You know, I understand, you know, they amped up his power and they got to add certain things to the mythos as it goes along. But, you know, that version of Superman will always be, you know, like, I guess my first introduction to Superman. I remember watching those, they you know, obviously they were reruns, but they would show them on Saturday morning cartoons. And, you know, I just loved the art style. I loved the feel of it. And it felt classic and timeless. You know, like Superman versus the robots and you know, different things like that. You didn't really have like super villains per se.
No.
It was more, it was closer to the original comic book and the radio plays.
Right.
So comic books, have you been collecting comic books as well since you were young, or have those always been a part of your life?
Yeah, they've always been part of my life. That was my first, in fact, my first really inspiration for everything, because I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to be a comic strip artist.
Okay. Yeah.
And a sports cartoonist. That was during the days. I remember.
Yeah.
I'm going to be version 7.4 in a couple of days.
Oh, well, happy early birthday to you.
Yeah. Thanks. But anyway, I grew up with the tail end of the golden age and the beginning of the silver age.
Oh, what a classic time.
Yeah. And I was a pack rat, except for when I got rid of a whole bunch of comics, you know, the DC comics, but I kept most of my Marvels.
All right. Well, there you go.
What I've got, let's see. Never mind. I put it away. I've got basically I kept my what I refer to as the treasures, you know, underneath my bed. You know, that's why I kept all my comic books. You know, and so I kept all these Spider-Man #1s. You know, all of the Iron Man, the Thor. You know, all of that stuff.
Fantastic Four.
I picked up because I was like 12 years old. Yeah. You know, I kept all that stuff, and then I got introduced to Golden Age stuff, and so I've also collected the original Captain Marvel comics.
Yeah.
So I've got the Fawcett Wiz comics. You know,
the character that eventually everybody became
Shazam.
Yeah.
But basically that was and there's so I was always wanting to be a comic strip artist.
Yeah.
So I was always, you know, you go and you say, well, you know, I can do stuff. I may not be able to do stuff. I may, you know, may not be able to get a job, what have you. But as a kid, I always drew from the comics and from the.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. It's not often that I get to hear, you know, somebody talking about like the classics, like the Golden Age stuff.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite comic strip artist? You know,
Chester Gould.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If you look at his sweet spot, which is the 1940s, that's when he really hit his peak before, you know, the 1950s. I mean, you could say there's a sweet spot of 12 years, 10 to 12 years, but you had all of the classic villains that were imitated by Batman.
I was about to say, you can trace a lot of Batman's rogues gallery to Dick Tracy's rogues gallery, because they were all different and they all had their unique little twist, little bend to them that made them, you know, fun. Yeah. And, you know, of course, Batman has all of his rogues gallery that are, you know, their own unique personalities. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I haven't read a whole lot of Dick Tracy, but I remember seeing some of the old strips here and there, and they were always entertaining and always really well done too.
And it's very hardcore. I mean, there's nothing like it. You haven't seen family entertainment until you have the Sunday page where Tracy is shooting holes in somebody's skull.
Well, I mean, it was a real world back then. You know, they didn't pull any punches. They were
No.
They were doing it real. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, that was also back in the time when crime comics, like the crime comics and the horror comics, were actually popular. You know, like superheroes really hadn't taken hold of the market yet. They were just kind of like this new thing.
Yeah.
You know, Superman and Batman were kind of new at that point. So yeah, that's amazing. Wow. I'm just blown away by that. What did you think of the Dick Tracy movie that they did with Warren Beatty back in the early '90s?
That was fun. It was campy, you know. I mean,
sure,
it is what it is. I mean, what I really like is that he got the right color yellow. He
was bright color yellow.
Yeah.
Well, to say something else about Dick Tracy, you remember when they started introducing the smartwatches? I got one at one point, and I was able to talk into my wrist, and I felt like Dick Tracy. And, you know, it was cool for a little bit. And then I realized I looked kind of ridiculous sitting out here talking into my wrist, and everybody could hear my conversation. So it's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That was cool for a little bit, but yeah, it works for Dick Tracy. Didn't quite work for me.
Yeah. Especially when everybody's got one.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not such a unique technology back or now. Let's see. Morb says, "Happy birthday to you, sir."
Thank you.
And what's up, Ray Haylock? Good to see you, sir. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. And yes, go sub to John Celestri's YouTube channel. He's got some really cool videos. The link is also in the description of this video. But thank you, some person. I appreciate that. What is the inspiration for this book, Fire Fist Angel? Where did the inspiration for this book come from?
Okay, Fire Fist is a relaunching the Bloodwing Angel books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and
basically, I tried it with in color version, but then I realized I had to go back to my webcomic version, which was black and white and tonal.
Oh, okay. When did you do the webcomic?
I did that back in 2000 into like, what was it, 18, something like that. I did 50 pages and put it up. Yeah, I did in black and white and tonal, and I didn't get much of a response, so I set it aside. But originally, I did the book. It was a novella that I wrote in 2013.
Okay.
And basically, it was a scream. It was at the lowest point of my life in 2013.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm being played with by the gods out there. And so I looked at it and I thought, okay. Now I grew up as a Catholic in Jesuit. You know, I mean, are you in New York? Where are you located?
I'm in Florida. I'm in St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city.
Okay, well, okay. So you don't know much about history, about New York and where.
I mean, I had family that lived in New York, and I visited a couple of times, but no, I'm not super familiar with the history of New York. So,
okay. Well, I grew up there. But anyway, I went to a Jesuit school, you know, so I got my Jesuit training and whatnot, and you know, part of it is studying, you know, literature and in religion and whatnot. So, but you know, reading the Old Testament, there's the Book of Job, and where there's a just man who is being played with, you know, by you know.
Devil's like, oh no, if you let me take away all of his good things, then he will curse your name.
That's right.
And God's like, nah, I probably won't.
I'm feeling like I'm Job because I've been playing by the rules, and I was really being screwed over terribly. Extremely so. No. So I said, okay, how do I'm just yelling at myself, and we're thinking really bad thoughts and all being very, I needed to do something. So you take your energy, creativity is taking something from within you and using it to create. So what I decided to do was to write a novella about an angel, the smallest, most innocent angel that's plucked out of the choir and is being used as a pawn between God and Satan, and that's the genesis for it. I'm Mychal. I am Mychal, the little angel, and I've been thrown out of heaven, and I've been thrown through the universe The
thrown to the
universe is
wolves.
ripped to shreds because the promise that if you obey my rules, nothing bad will happen to you, but you've been screwed. So here you are. The promise is broken. So that rips tears the fabric of the universe momentarily, and then restitches it back. But it's no longer what it was before. And this is where Mychal lands into that world.
Wow, that's awesome. That is a heck of a place to start a story.
Yeah.
So we've got a trailer here. What's up, Edwin? Good to see you, sir. Thank you for coming to hang out, man. We'll go ahead and play the trailer here.
Bloodwing, Fire Fist Angel. Mychal, an innocent angel, is a pawn in a cosmic chess match between the gods of light and darkness, and is unjustly banished to the mortal realm. There, Mychal struggles to survive among demons and living dead. Along the way, Mychal becomes the guardian angel to a neighborhood filled with killers and sinners. So this is what happens when the promise from your God is broken. The universe is momentarily torn apart and restitched into a new reality. Now what is good? Now what is evil? Mychal must develop a new moral compass.
That's awesome. So I'm guessing you did the animation for your trailer.
Well, all it is just taking off. The finger point and all that. Yeah, I did all that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. And so here's the book. So how many pages are we looking at for?
Well, it's a 64-page trade paperback. This is the second of the thing. I've got the first one was done, and it's another 64. I'm releasing them as 64-page trade paperback digest size.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, digest size. Okay.
Yeah. It's
very
like
cool.
You know,
Here, I'll bring
you
you
go.
up so
You know,
that people can see that.
there you go. I know. Okay.
All right.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. You know, in terms of the
nice little volume.
Yeah. You know, so and you know, I figured that just if you wanted just that alone is like $10 plus shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've
got
got
but then you could get the two pack. You get the PDFs for $5. You know,
that's great for people that are outside of the U.S. because shipping is sometimes horrendous for our friends outside of the U.S.
Yeah. So you can get and here's a sample of the black and white artwork and such. Again, there's a $10 tier. Then there's a $20 tier for the two of them. Then I also have I think is it a $40 or $35 tier? A $25 tier. The one is with a copy of the thing and a pin.
That's cool.
You know, and then there are two more. There's another tier, and for those who want to connect, I've got some Boba Fett sketches that I've done as with that's on 8.5 by 11 animation paper. Hold on a second. Here.
Hey, Mrs. Goodstuff. Thank you for coming to hang out. Oh, hang on. Let me bring that up. So that is awesome.
Yeah.
And done in the traditional red animation.
Pencil sketches on animation bond paper. It's punched the way we would.
Yeah.
And so you got a piece of animation art there. So
that's awesome.
So that would be $110 with both copies of the book, and you get copies of both books, two trade paperbacks. So that's what, about 120 pages, and then and a book for $110.
That's fantastic. That's a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great deal. So that's a lot of content, and plus you get a piece of animation history there.
Yeah.
You know,
Remember
from
this here. I'm the only one who drew Boba Fett.
yeah, I was about to say they never did any more animated stuff with Boba Fett. I mean,
They showed.
C-3PO
They
and
showed. I think they used them in the Ewoks and Druids, or and the Ewoks
oh
and the
yeah,
droids.
that's right. That's
You know,
right. Yeah.
they showed them a little bit, but it's not the same. It's not the same character. It's not the same thing. They didn't do the same thing with
Yeah,
him.
that whole that animated Ewoks thing was a lot different. It
Mhm.
wasn't
It was for kids.
it was for kids. Yeah, they couldn't really use Boba Fett to his
No,
fullest extent in that. Now
they would,
in
they would never allow Boba to smack his dinosaur, his ride the way I did.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, you got to actually, draw Boba Fett and have him act like the bounty hunter that he
Like a
actually
bounty hunt.
is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Was there ever an opportunity, like, did they ever talk about like doing more, like just doing something with Boba Fett back then, or?
Actually, if you look at it from the point of view that even with the live action, I've got more screen time in animation than the live actors had.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. They in Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett was not around for very long.
No.
He's got this storied history, supposedly as this, amazing bounty hunter, and he just kind of got punked in that movie, unfortunately.
That's right.
Poor guy. They redeemed him in the extended universe books and the comic books and whatnot, but yeah, it was poor guy. It was a little rough for him in that movie. Let's see. Hey, Kevlar, what's up, man? Good to see you. Appreciate you being here. This looks fun, man. So we're looking at 64 pages each book. You can get both books. That's fantastic. So how long is this story in your mind? Like how many of these volumes?
Well, right now I'm finishing up the third volume, so I'll be pitching, getting that out there. Pardon me, for probably in March. That I will start February or March to do the Kickstarter on that one. So and that's another 64-page book.
Awesome.
Yeah, but in terms of, I think there's about another 150 pages worth of story in this arc. So
in this arc. Okay, wow.
It's 300 pages worth of material.
Yeah. That's cool. And how many arcs do you foresee? I mean, or have you even thought that far yet?
Oh yeah, I have. I've got arcs for maybe 2 or 3 more. So there's enough material that'll last until you write my obituary.
Yeah. So you've got material for a nice, if you wanted to. It sounds like once you get it all done, you'll have a nice solid chunk of material for like an omnibus or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. There will be that, because there is so much material to deal with, because it's not just about demon fighting and stuff like that. It's
right.
about it's about Mychal having to figure out what's the whole thing about being in existence, because Mychal is both male and female. So you've got the stories of how Mychal deals with, it could be romantic relationships with guys, and then as a guy having romantic relationships with gals, and Mychal might wind up being a singer at the club, because the 1717 club, that's where that's one of the portals, into Shadow's world.
Okay. And I'm seeing kind of the Dick Tracy influence.
Yep.
Oh, here,
Yep.
the
There
Dick
you go.
Tracy influence here with the Rogues Gallery.
Yeah. There you go. the 1717 Club really existed in my neighborhood. It was across the street from my parents' religious gift shop. So we had a Catholic shop, and it was called L&L Gift Shop. So if you scroll back up a little bit to the previous one, that's that is where my grandmother used to. It's almost a verbatim shot of where my grandmother lived above the shop, the store in Brooklyn, and would look out the window, and we'd look across the way to the 1717 Club, which is what the name of the place was, and that's where all the mobsters hung out. The gangsters in Bensonhurst. There was one area that they would come into there. So that was on 86th Street and 17th Avenue. So it is reality.
Yeah, so you're pulling from your personal experience with this, and adding it to the world that Mychal is existing in.
Right. If you note the L&L gift shop, the EL and EL, that's kind of like how the ending of most angels' names were. But
right.
The thing is that there wasn't, the L and L stood for Lena and Loretta. Lena was my mother's name, Angelina, and Loretta was my aunt's name, Loretta. So they were L&L gift shop, but it was an L and an L as a gift shop.
That's awesome.
Pulling all this, and it was worship tools for all beliefs and witches and warlocks. Yeah. So
yeah, I think that's cool. I like that quite a bit, actually. I love the fact that you're pulling from your own reality, like your own past, like stuff that was in your life. Everybody in my chat knows what word I'm about to use. It adds verisimilitude to the story that you're telling.
Yeah.
It makes it real. It grounds it. It adds a lot of depth of character, and it makes the world feel fleshed out and real. So, I mean, I think that's crucial to actually telling a good story. And I'm looking at this, and I could definitely see this being like an animated, like an animated show. Have you thought about doing that once you get the story done?
Well, what I have done already was what I'm pulling from for the first story arc is the first completed episode I did for a live action or animated show. So I did the script. What I did first was I did the novella. Then I decided, well, let me see if I could pull it into some sort of, TV show, whatnot. And then I said, well, maybe, I don't know. Let's see if I could do it as a webcomic. But then I went back and I started I set that aside after 50 pages of story. Then what I did was then develop the idea of Mychal as as a TV show so I did what I would consider to be enough for one season, a 6 episode story arc. But you know what? Each script goes on because of the animation and because of the stories. There's about 5 comics
stuff
in there.
About 5 comics of the 64 page.
Just to do that one episode because I added so much to it.
Right. That's
in
cool.
Development. So
yeah. I mean, your style obviously, it lends itself well to animation because you're an animator.
Yep.
But I mean, just looking at this right here, like this right here, I could definitely see, him leaning out and just I could hear the New York City behind, the sound effects, and I don't know. I think it would look really cool as an animated feature. Even doing it just black and white like this, do it exactly toned like you have. Yep. Maybe sepia, to have it feel like old timey. What time period does this take place in? This story.
We changed. Remember, time has changed. So there is a universal aspect, but in terms of how, in my mind, what I've done is, if you go through the concept of, if you take that everything has already happened,
right,
and that the gods know everything, So
Right.
if you've got a timeline, like say, okay, here's infinity, it's a forever and ever. So you've got a certain point where Mychal gets flown, tossed out. So maybe it's, this might be the 2000s. Let's say I could say it's 2013 when Mychal has been thrown out. But you know what? What happened is everything gets shifted because everything has been torn apart and then restitched. So in the story that I've already blocked out, by the time from the time she's thrown out of safety, we'll call it, and lands, it's 500 years. But it's only a page in comic book land.
Sure.
Okay, so but what we have here is a situation where we also have historical documents of there have been all of the iPhones and everything took pictures and whatnot of suddenly things happen. It's like having what is it called, an awakening. Things shifted suddenly out of nowhere. Things suddenly changed.
Okay.
And so there is history of how things were, and then there was a thing that happened, and then it was
like a cataclysm.
The development over 500 years of how dimensional warps and things have happened. Holes, worms, wormholes have opened up. Demons have been able to cluster out and come through. And what they've done is each society now has had to build up walls to protect themselves from the demons that are out in the wilds.
Oh wow! Okay.
So you've got it's all part of this story.
there's all kinds of stuff going on here. It's not just localized to just the city of New York here. This is kind of a cosmic story as well.
Very much so, because you've got at one point, I'll just give a hint that at some point, because of the amount of blood that is used, it's called blood plaster to keep the wall alive, and that's what it is. It's sort of there's an element of the souls of the people whose blood has been shed, because you have a human sacrifice and to the demons that goes
power in blood.
Yeah. So each society has got their own ways of doing things. So New York City might have one thing, but Philadelphia and Boston might have something else, because they're not in communication with each other.
Okay, so this could almost be considered like a post-apocalyptic story as well.
Yes, but I'm not going that way, because I would rather, say, okay, what is this world about? And because you have demons, because you have magic, you have all kinds of things, the rules have changed. So we no longer have to follow, as long as once a rule has been placed, in my mind, I will follow it.
Right.
But the idea is almost anything can happen.
Yeah. That's wow. So you're creating your own unique world for these characters to exist in. Yes, that's pretty incredible. It's really cool that you're pulling in like the ethereal and the cosmic and the real world grounded aspects as well. Because I mean, real life is kind of like that. There's all those things, all those elements that go into reality. And this is comics. You can do anything as long as it serves the story.
Right, and the whole idea is when Mychal. I don't need to. Nobody's going to remember what I say here, but basically, because of the Mychal situation, Mychal realizes that well, we will term they, because it's both he and she. They are part of being they are the crucial pawn in the game.
Oh, okay, so, they're kind of the crux.
Yes. So therefore, there's a game between whatever the game is between Creatus and Shadow. Mychal starts playing for both sides.
Stuck in the middle, play both sides against one another. I mean, if they're gonna
and realizes that Mychal realizes that well, I have the power to keep this thing going. So they, they're not going to. They will challenge me. They will do all kinds of things, but I want to keep this going. I want to be in charge. So I will play this as well as I can for as long as I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mychal has a what's the word? Has limited angelic powers. So Phil has the wings. It has the flaming fist. The flaming sword fist. Well, it was a flaming sword. It only has enough power for a finger.
Right.
But the power that it can't. And the aspect of Mychal. Mychal has a high metabolism. So there's so much energy to fly, and so much energy to flame on and to use her flaming fist. It diminishes, and so Mychal is constantly hungry.
Okay, gotta recharge that battery.
You gotta recharge it all the time. So therefore, there's a weakness. There. Mychal,
you gotta have some kind of weakness. Yeah.
Yes. And that's it. It needs to eat, and also Mychal has certain abilities to hear. Can't hear a very far distance the same way as animals. Like a hawk can see 2 miles away. Well, Mychal used to be able to see infinity as an angel, but can't any longer. So diminish all these various powers in human form, in mortal form.
And so it's also the story of Mychal learning to deal with those limitations, being used to having this limitless power and suddenly not having that power.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, that's a very a way to humanize the character almost. To at a very human level of interaction with the character.
Right. Well, and Mychal tries to explain to people that they're an angel, but no. Nobody believes him. No one believes him.
That sounds about right.
About right. That's the thing. So anyway, there's a whole lot. The story, to me, the world of Mychal is a place that I'm trying to do something as a graphic novel series that isn't just about whether the boobs come out or the flame, chop off heads, or we're cutting, or we're doing trying to go after a super villain. This is all about how to handle life with whatever abilities you have.
Yeah, we work with what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great message to deliver to people, and that that's one of the beautiful things about comic books is that you can entertain the audience, and you can deliver a good message without beating somebody about the face, head, and neck with it. The subtlety of being able to let people discover that message that is within is it's crucial. Being able to have that subtlety. Sometimes subtlety is kind of thrown out the window these days. So, having that message be something that is, in not necessarily, in the background, but it's one of those, it's a subtitle and letting people pick up on it. I think that's great. Yeah. And, the chance to inspire somebody, give them a little humor, give them a little TNA, little action and adventure, and, make them think along the way.
You're right.
I mean, that's a fantastic way to do it, I think.
Yeah. I don't shy away from full frontal. I mean, if you've caught. Well, I've made this very safe for work. This version.
Yeah, it has to be on Kickstarter and YouTube.
But when we're in looking at the books, do not play cutesy.
Yeah. Yep. It may be animation style, but it is definitely not for kids. It is clearly stated up here at the top.
It's very Ralph
very mature
Bakshi.
themes and naughty bits in it. Mature readers 17 plus. So
Yeah.
don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why there's a
You
parental
notice
advisory at the beginning of my
naughty
show.
bits,
Yeah,
up
that's
there.
funny.
Yeah, that's the, I mean, that's a separate level that comes off in
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah, I mean, and John's got a Twitter, you guys. You can go see some of the other stuff that he's posted about it on his Twitter, and that's uncensored. So feel free to go check that out as well.
Yeah, That's it's a cool thing. I'm more of it's Brooklyn. It's very much Fleischer. If you look at a very Fleischer of the early 30s. The street Fleischer, that's pre-war, World War Fleischer. There's Depression time Fleischer. Mm-hmm. There's also a touch of early Jack Kirby, New York buildings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Those brick tenements, man. The brownstones. Gotta love them.
Yeah.
That's classic New York too.
Yeah. That's right. That's where I grew up in the Bensonhurst. Those buildings were built in 1921, 27. Mm-hmm. So I grew up there in the 50s and 60s. Yeah.
So that means this also has a little bit of that pulp feel to it. Like the old shadow pulps, and a little bit of that feel. The street level grittiness of the pulps.
Yeah. Which is another reason that you were asking me about what kind of stuff I read.
Yes, right? Yes, absolutely.
Well, all right. Hold on.
Okay. Corey Barton says, "Good to hear that it's got some babes in it." That's the thing Corey's always looking for. So yeah, man, go check it out, Corey. There's some hot TNA for you. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I collect besides keeping my comic books, I would collect
Love it.
The Shadow and Doc Savage.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
That's the kind of stuff I would do. Doc Savage,
classic.
The Shadow. You've got. You have the Spider, but I prefer the classier writing of the Shadow and Doc Savage.
Oh yeah. The Spider had a cool costume, but the Shadow and Doc Savage, they had the good writing, they had the quality stories, right? And some of my favorite things to listen to, when I was a kid, were the Shadow radio plays. Mm-hmm. I would catch them occasionally, and then when I got older, I went to the library and I found like a collection on CD, right? And I was just listening to them enraptured, listening to Orson Welles do his Shadow, and just I don't know, radio plays I think are almost a lost art form these days.
Oh, they are.
The sound effects, the cast, everybody's got to emote through their voice because you can't see them. Right. So I love that. I think Audible has done a really good job with the Sandman audio books, like the it's basically a radio play because they've got sound effects, they got music, and like a full cast, and I think they did a really good job with that. And I would love for more stuff like that to be put out, just because it's so entertaining.
Yeah, well, you having distinctive voices is something that you need, to really spark your interest. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the cartoons of the 30s and 40s.
Yeah,
because they were using radio voices.
Yeah,
Mel Blanc did everything. He was almost, but he wasn't just for Warner Brothers. He was on the Jack Benny show. He was everywhere doing voices and emoting that way. And the same way with a lot of other people. The closest thing that you have in terms of unique voices are the Simpsons.
Oh yeah. Dan Castellaneta, Harry Shearer, all those guys, Nancy Cartwright. Just amazing. And like the amount of different voices those folks can do. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows, Frank Megatron Welker, who has done like, half of the animation history. Yeah, I love voice acting. I love animation. You know, just listening to people. I can pick out voices listening to like different things. You know, I'll hear a voice in a show or an animation, and it'll stick in my head, and I'll be like, there's something about that voice that I recognize. Who is that? And I'll keep playing it over and over in my head until I figure out who it is. You know, yeah, that's a lot of fun. Jim Cummings, you know, another amazing voice actor. What's his name? Peter Cullen, who did Optimus Prime, but also Eeyore. You know, yeah, that cracks me up, man. I love the range that these people have. You have Jim Cummings doing the voice of Winnie the Pooh, but in the Slaughterhouse remake video game, you know, he's doing the voice of the evil mask that powers up the dude. So it's cool to see him, you know, do cute and cuddly, and then, you know, do dark and sinister, and, you know, dropping F-bombs here and there. You know, it's fun.
The vocal cords are amazing. To be able to do that, you really are stretching a certain. You've got to be able. You're playing. That's your instrument.
It is. It 100% is. You know, you gotta you know, like you said, stretch it. You gotta work with it, and, you know, find that. And it's got to be something that you can repeat, you know, regularly. It's got to be something that you can keep doing, not just, you know, a one-off.
Right.
So I find it amazing that these people find these characters, and, you know, it's like they find that certain spot in their head and in their vocal cords that they can, you know, keep finding those characters. I mean, for me, I can do this, you know, this is one of the things that I do. Mostly because I sing death metal, you know, I growl songs out and stuff like that. So I've worked at it for a while. But, you know, finding those characters and being able to, you know, emote through that. You know, Frank Welker, actually, this is kind of inspired by, you know, the Cave of Wonders that Frank Welker did in the Aladdin film. Know this, the one who may enter here must be the diamond in the rough. You know, it's just that kind of thing. I always found that amazing. And then when I realized that was the same dude that did the voice for Megatron and Soundwave and, like, you know, fucking Fred from, you know, Scooby-Doo. And yeah, it just blew me away. I was just like, oh my God, this dude's amazing. How is he able to do all of these different voices, and it's this one same person? So yeah, voice actors are incredible. And I think that we should have more radio plays. Because voice actors get more work that way, and two, it encourages people to use their mind. You know, I obviously I love books. I love reading stuff. I love comic books and they're visual, but there's something to be said about reading a book or listening to an audio adventure that engages the mind and makes you use the theater of the mind more. You know. Yeah, I mean, there's a certain level of it when you're reading a book or reading a comic book, because you've got to provide the voices yourself. You've got to provide the sound effects. You know, your mind will fill in the background details. But that whole theater of the mind thing that books give you is a unique thing for me. I absolutely love it. You know, and give me a story. You know, I love stories. I'm always looking for a good story. And this sounds like a fun and very interesting story. So. Is there any other kind of story that you would want to tell, like, in this universe, or do you have like another universe of characters that you would want to do? Are there any other IPs, I guess, is what I'm asking?
Well, in terms of in the past, in the 90s, my wife and I co-wrote several crime fiction novels.
Oh wow! Okay,
and we self-published them, and we got them in the stores, and we were all over the place until Ingram bought up everything, and as I said, self-publishers or small presses, unless you're running 10 new books a year, we don't care for you or whatnot. Anyway, but we did 2 of the books was part of a crime fiction novels, historical crime fiction that take place in the 1940s, and it's based on Little Mexico. It's a Newport, Kentucky, which was the prototype for Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, in Newport, Kentucky, right across from the Ohio River from Cincinnati, that's where you had all kinds of casinos.
Mhm.
You had supper clubs, and big time people. People like Cab Calloway, Benny
wow.
Goodman, because they'd all come through Cincinnati, because that was a major railroad area line.
Yeah, it was like a hub.
And also it was a radio. It was a radio hub.
Yeah.
Or WLW. People would come through. They
Radio
would have
Cincinnati.
Show,
Yeah,
would do
totally.
their radio show, or they'd be a guest on somebody. They would do whatever it is. Then they'd go across the river, and gamble, but also play the casinos. I mean, you'd have Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. You'd have Bojangles come in for dance.
Bojangles.
The Ritz brothers. You'd have the McGuire sisters. You would have all of the radio people would come through.
Yeah.
And do that. Also, in the movie, I guess with Some Came Running or whatever, it's with Shirley MacLaine and Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. They're out in Indiana. Well, they come in. That's and they're in the 50s, and so after they'd stop shooting for a day or two or whatever. Frank would take Dean and Shirley MacLaine go to Newport to gamble.
Yeah. Goodstuff says he goes to Newport, Kentucky from time to time.
Yeah. Okay, well then yeah. You know all about that. Okay, so WW, what Newport used to be like. Now, even in the early 60s, they still had it, but the mobsters, were being run out of the Kefauver hearings, and Bobby Kennedy was running after them, so they had to find a place to get their casinos, do their business, because Newport had everybody in there. You had the Cleveland Syndicate, you had the Chicago people, you had the New York people. They all had a piece of each other's. They came up with the idea of giving each other a piece of each other's pie, so that everybody, had their own style. They even had their own police. For everybody was on the take. I mean, the police and the cop, the politicians, everybody got a piece of action.
Yeah, that way everybody's making money and it keeps the peace.
They bought all their food. The mobsters kept all of their business within the city, so that everybody. I mean, you had slot machines in candy stores. You had them in the laundromats. Yeah, everywhere. It was everybody had something.
Yeah, so they were making money hand over fist too.
Everybody, that's right. And then when the mobsters went out to Las Vegas because it was getting too hot, because it was Vegas. Vegas was illegal.
Yeah.
Okay. They said, okay, forget it. We're moving there. And so they took the idea of how to deal with stuff and to how to work with each other. Yeah. Went out that way, and it killed Newport.
I bet they probably sucked all the air and life out of the city.
Absolutely.
Wow. So I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
So what I tried doing at one point was doing a live action series, a mini series, based on the two books that we did, which takes place in the 1940s.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I did sample scripts and whatnot. So it's all that's the kind of thing I would have liked to do, but because once again, it's hard to get into writing that much, because we did a lot of that writing, but it's a different world, there used to be a lot of mystery bookstores. Specifically, I don't know that exists anymore.
Not specifically mystery bookstores, but I mean there are still some used bookstores around. The comic shop.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but talking about they were specifically just the first runs and kept books no matter, had the new ones, and then they also kept the backlog, and so that kept people going. But the world, in terms of going to a bookstore, even if it is, in your neighborhood, it's Amazon.
Unfortunately, it's really hard for brick and mortar stores to survive these days because you can just I can get it cheaper on Amazon. Yes,
right. So
probably,
you don't get hand selling. That's the thing, and that's another thing that I don't know happens with if that happens much in comic books, local comic book shops, unless you've got a really good one.
Yeah, the comic shop that I used to work in has been there since '86, and it just recently got sold to a longtime customer. And it's kind of moved from comics to manga, Japanese comics.
Right.
That's the thing that's really popular. But he still sells used books. Like the paperbacks, and we'll occasionally get new-ish hardcovers and whatnot. So I mean, they're still out there. From what I understand, there's the books still sell, but and they still make money, but it's not as much as it used to be. There aren't as many people reading as there used to be, and unfortunately, a lot of people get their stuff from Amazon just because it's cheaper, and they've got Amazon Prime, so they can watch the videos and they can also get the free 1-day, 2-day shipping. Right. I mean, it's a way to save money, but also it's hard for the brick and mortar. I say we should support brick and mortar wherever we can. I would much rather buy local if I can. I would rather support a local business if I can. Goodstuff says Crosley was genius. Build radios, then buys a radio station. Back then, a true nation station. 700 WLW could be heard in Cali, Florida, Canada to advertise his radios for sale.
Yep,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
What you could do is try to turn those crime novellas into comic books. I mean, find an artist that really gets that feel.
Yeah, the thing about it is, it's the superhero curse of comics that people. I mean, It's kind of like if I were to do that, if I were to do the comic book, if I would do a version, it would be more along a Dick Tracy, Chester Gould.
Yes, absolutely. Like lean into that heavily.
But here's the thing. I could do that with the 1717 Club.
There you go. I mean, you could take some of those crime stories and weave them into Fire Fist Angel.
All kinds of stuff that can do, because this allows me to do not just is supernatural stuff. I do crime stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, you could really do anything with this. So you almost don't even need to do another IP. You could work this into because you could have anthology stories in the series. Yeah. Where Mychal is just like kind of a side character, and it focuses on different characters within this world.
Well, in this second book. I have it's not just a 40-page story for Mychal. There's a 7-page 1717 a supper club story.
Okay,
a standalone. It's kind of like it could be, let's say it's my version of the Spirit.
Yeah. Oh man, love some Spirit. Yep. Yeah, Eisner was a genius when it comes to storytelling. Just his page layouts.
Yeah, but doing that allows me then to bring about why the characters are not to be messed with.
Sure.
With the other with the family, with the Combs family across the street. So there's a lot of things you can do. If you remember that you have a comic book that can do more than one story, I mean, the old school was you had a 12-page story, and then 2 6 or 7 page stories.
Yeah, that was the old format. That's true. Yeah.
You know, so
that's awesome. Like, so you literally can do anything with this story and this IP.
yes. Yeah. Because the
awesome.
rules can be broken, and there is all kinds of stuff here. So
Good Stuff says up here, comic book shops are moving to the games. Yeah, that is an unfortunate truth. The new comics are not selling as well as they used to, but the back issues sell and games sell. People like to play games. They like to interact with things.
Right.
And the manga is selling. And speaking of manga, the digest size that you're doing, and like the black and white artwork with the tone, it's in a similar vein to manga, because a lot of manga is black and white, and they do sell them in the similar digest size volumes.
Right.
So I mean, I think you're on the right track with this book, man.
Yeah.
Well, we've been going for about an hour now, a little over an hour. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Bloodwing Angel or Firefist Angel before we wrap up?
Well, I would hope I have a very modest goal to reach of $500, and I would love to be able to make it and get and I've got another 15, 16 days, to get
71% there, man.
So
I think you guys, I think you can get there, and guys, go hit that link pinned to the top of the comments here, the top of the chat. Go grab yourself a book, or in fact, grab both of them, especially if you missed the first book, and if you're so inclined, go grab yourself an original Boba Fett. And both of the books as well.
Yeah, you're getting old school on both ends there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Boba Fett done with the with the red animation pencil and on specific animation paper.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, John, thank you so much for coming to hang out, man. This has been a pleasure talking with you. It's been cool to hear about your history, and taking a trip back and hearing about how you came up in the world, man. And I'm excited for you to get Firefist Angel out.
Well, I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Chat, you guys are amazing. Always appreciate you being here. And remember,
Shop smart, shop S-Mart.